conventional weapons will not work against these villains.
Me powers are returning.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 supernatural serial killers in horror movies.
I need you hopeless.
For this list, we'll be looking at those famous cinematic creatures, beings, and monsters that are known to have high victim counts and are almost impossible to stop or kill. Now would be a good time for a spoiler alert.
Richie, you're still here? We never expected you to stick around. Nice nose job. No one would ever suspect.
Number 10, Sadako Yamamura, the Ringu franchise. It doesn't get much more supernatural than vengeful ghosts that take revenge on the living because they've been wronged. And they don't get much more methodical than Sadako from the Ringu series. In this psychological horror franchise, young Sadako was thrown into a well and left to die, and now racks up the victims by tricking them into watching a videotape featuring bizarre and surreal images.
私が聞いたのは、なんかいきなり怖い女の人が映って、お前は1週間後に死ぬって。
This mischievous spirit gains additional sadistic pleasure from calling her victims and letting them know how long they have to live. With absolutely no remorse, Sadako seems to kill her victims with one look, since they're always found literally scared to death. Number 9, Candyman, the Candyman franchise.
Helen, you came to me.
A terrifying urban legend, the Candyman and his supernatural power continues to be felt today. As the story goes, this monstrous killer was the son of a slave who was mutilated, covered in honey, stung by bees, and then burned for having a child with a white woman.
They smashed the hives and stole the honeycomb and smeared it over his prone, naked body. Candyman was stung to death by the bees.
Today, Candyman can be summoned by saying his name 5 times into a mirror. He will then appear covered in bees and with a hook for a hand in order to claim more victims. After bringing his seductive power into her world, graduate student Helen learns the hard way not to mess with urban legends when people around her start dropping like flies. Or bees, we guess.
It was always you, Helen. It was always you.
Number 8, the mirror, Oculus.
Hello again. You must be hungry.
This won't be the only inanimate object on this list, but it's definitely the most mysterious. While other entries will stalk, chase, and kill their victims, the supernatural power of this mirror is completely imperceptible. It hangs innocently on the wall of the Russell family home, but it's anything but innocent.
Alan Russell was not a murderer, he was a victim. One of many, as it turns out, victims of the supernatural force that resides in that mirror.
This mirror caused the family's downfall, leaving the parents dead and the son institutionalized. While the origin of the mirror's demonic presence is never fully explained, its true power is slowly revealed through flashbacks.
There's no scientific equivalent for the word haunted, so we'll just say this object is responsible for at least 45 deaths in the 4 centuries of its recorded existence.
It causes hallucinations, violent, erratic behavior, and even the disappearance of pets. But the true horrific magnitude of this supernatural monster is only truly discovered when we see its large number of trapped victims.
Please, you have to believe me!
It was a mirror! It was a mirror!
Number 7, Pennywise the Dancing Clown, It.
I, Georgie, am Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
Tim Curry's portrayal of Pennywise the Clown may have become an iconic pop cultural image, but true fans of the miniseries and the Stephen King book know that It is much more than a scary clown.
Kiss me, fat boy.
The monster, known simply as It, is an otherworldly being with an insatiable hunger for murder and mayhem that's able to transform into the embodiment of your worst fears. Its forms, clowns, giant spiders, and even dead relatives. Its ideal targets: innocent children.
Do they float?
Oh, yes. They float, Georgie. They float. And when you're down here with me, you float too!
Told in 2 parts, the made-for-TV film follows a group of kids who were terrorized by Pennywise in their youth, and grow up to finally face their fears and get rid of him once and for all.
Killed my brother George, you bastard. Let's see you now.
Let's see you now. Show yourself.
Number 6. Michael Myers, the Halloween franchise.
Michael?
In a time when slasher films were relatively unknown, Halloween gave rise to the ever-popular stalk and slash genre, and audiences became obsessed with their first masked killer.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Michael started off as a child killer, murdering his sister in cold blood, but escaped custody 15 years later and went on a multi-film rampage. Although this larger-than-life monstrosity mysteriously walks faster than you can run, Michael began as a very human, babysitter-obsessed serial killer. Even so, John Carpenter himself called him an almost supernatural force. Michael Myers' status as a supernatural killer has grown over the years, as demonstrated by the fact that no amount of stabs, gunshots, acid injections, or being thrown out of buildings seems to stop him.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Number 5. The Entity, It Follows.
It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you.
It Follows prompts the question, can we really be afraid of a killer that we never even see? The answer is a resounding yes. It Follows is a movie with such brilliant atmosphere, acting, and dread that we do not need to see this killer to understand the terror these people face. In fact, we know almost nothing of the entity's origin or existence, apart from the fact that it could take the shape of other people and chooses its victims when it's transferred to them like a disease. It may not have as many victims as some of our other entries, but its mystery and relentless pursuit of its victims have left an unshakable impression on modern audiences.
Jay, what is it?
Number 4. Dracula, the Dracula franchise.
To die, to be really dead, that must be glorious.
By far the oldest entry on this list, Count Dracula of Transylvania has a long, blood-soaked, and complicated history that began with the 15th century's Vlad the Impaler and continued with Bram Stoker's 1897 novel.
I hope you will find this comfortable.
Thanks, it looks very inviting.
However, his cinematic legacy was cemented with Bela Lugosi's legendary portrayal in the 1931 Universal Monsters horror film, Dracula.
Punish me, torture me, but let me live. I can't die with all those lines on my conscience, all that blood on my hands.
The Vampire King, Count Dracula, has been portrayed on the silver screen dozens of times, and with every portrayal, he's as bloodthirsty as ever. Originally only lusting after the lovely Mina, and slowly killing his way to her, this undead bloodsucker has since collected a ridiculous number of victims. Number 3. Chucky, the Child's Play franchise.
We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
The killer doll movie to end all killer doll movies, Child's Play is one of those films where its main character has overshadowed the movie itself. Chucky's even become beloved, despite the disgusting and sadistic things he's done.
Give me the boy and I'll let you live, do you hear me?
Charles Lee Ray is a serial killer we meet only briefly, but thanks to some voodoo magic, he's able to transfer his soul to a doll before he's caught. Unfortunately, that good guy doll ends up in a toy store, and you can guess what happens next. Watching a kid's toy commit an insane amount of murders with a gleeful grin is what keeps us coming back to this morbidly dark and entertaining series.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Number 2. Jason Voorhees, the Friday the 13th franchise.
Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live. I won't, Jason. I won't.
For better or worse, we've come to associate Friday the 13th with knife-wielding maniacs thanks to this long-running horror franchise. A tale still whispered about around summer campfires. Jason Voorhees' legend is the sad tale of a deformed child neglected by his horny teenage counselors and left to drown at his summer camp.
He neglected to mention that downtown they call this place Camp Blood.
The original film was a straight-up revenge movie, but the supernatural angle kicks in with part 2, when Jason rises from the grave. Much like Michael Myers, he appears to survive attempts on his life in movie after movie, lending credence to the idea that he's a supernatural being. However, in part 6, he is actually resurrected, and definitively acquires superhuman abilities.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
I want to hear him confess himself. Then, maybe... But if you cheat us, we'll tear your soul apart.
Billy, Mrs. Luton messed up that design for whatever reason. I saw Death's plan. Then we cheated it.
Number 1. Freddy Krueger, the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Come to Freddy.
Topping our list is the most terrifying child killer ever to grace the silver screen, the incomparable Freddy Krueger.
Watch this.
Many of the serial killers on this list cannot seem to stay dead, implying their supernatural powers. But Freddy has the advantage of also being able to find you in your sleep. There truly is nowhere to hide.
1, 2 friends coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
Krueger can invade your dreams and turn them into nightmares. And if he kills you in your sleep, it's lights out for good. Although many kids have tried to fight back, Krueger and his razor-sharp hand keep on coming, decade after decade.
Sorry, kid. I don't believe in fairy tales.
Do you agree with our list?
I thought something like this might happen. That's why I prepared for it.
What supernatural killers haunt your dreams? For more shocking top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
I want